Hi there, Nathan here with ATC Cooling and Heating, and today we're going to point out the best type of water heater to buy and when to buy it. Now, it used to be that there were really just two kinds of water heaters. You either had an electric tank or a gas tank. And sure, there were some oddballs out there like oil-fired water tanks or even variations that used boilers, but really the situation was pretty simple. Today that's changed. We have new models like heat pump or hybrid water heaters, tankless water heaters, even a few that tried to be in between all of that. Then there is the cost of propane, natural gas, and electricity, which have really spread out. So the question is, what is the best type of water heater and, well, when should you buy it? To find out the answer, I priced out the installation costs for each type of water heater and calculated the operating costs too. Let's start with operating costs. And note, these prices are for Eastern Tennessee. Your mileage may vary, and that is especially true for electric rates. With all of the hydropower nearby, our rates here in Tennessee for electricity are really low. And that said, I'll show you a New York rate too, and we'll look at the difference that makes. First, the assumptions. The first assumption is how much hot water is used each day. And I've got a little chart here. For 2 to 3 people in the house, it's about 50 gallons. For 3 to 4, it's about 64 gallons of hot water. And so on. My family probably uses 100 every day. And that's just hot water. That's not total water usage, that's just the hot water usage. The next thing to talk about is delta T, or temperature rise. That is the input temperature, what comes into your tap, and what you want your hot water tank to be at. So from 50 to 120 degrees, that's a 70 degree delta T. That varies slightly between summer and winter. The input temperature is usually a little colder in the winter, and so you have a wider range, and maybe a little bit warmer in the summer for a shorter range. But 70 is a good average to use. Lastly, we have the cost of the fuel. Electricity here in Eastern Tennessee is about 12 cents a kilowatt hour. In New York, it's, believe it or not, about 23 cents a kilowatt hour. Propane here is about $3.49 a gallon, and natural gas here is about $1.77 a therm. Now the types of tanks. First is the standard electric water heater. 40 gallons, 50 gallons, sometimes even 80 gallons. These use two 4,500 watt elements to heat the water. Next, propane tanked and tankless systems. Tanks are similar to electric, but use a propane burner on the bottom of the tank instead of electric elements. Tankless is really more like a modern boiler, and it stores no water. It turns on every time you open up a tap for hot water. Tankless water heaters really never run out of hot water, but they are limited to a flow rate, and usually that means you can run any one appliance non-stop with a tankless water heater, but try and run two things and you might have some difficulties, like a dishwasher and take a shower at the same time. You could be disappointed with the temperature of your water. Natural gas is exactly the same, except instead of propane, it uses natural gas. Next is the heat pump water heater. Sometimes people call that a hybrid water heater. A heat pump water heater is just a standard electric water tank, 50 gallons, 66 gallons seems to be a popular size, or 80 gallons, with a heat pump that's really grafted on the top of it. The heat pump moves heat from the surrounding air into the tank. It doesn't really create heat like the other options do, burning gas or the electric element. It's just moving heat, and that contributes mightily to its efficiency advantage. Some points to consider with a heat pump water heater. First, unlike a standard electric tank, it's not silent. It makes a small amount of noise while it's running that heat pump. Second, it puts off some cool air. As it pulls the heat into the tank, it expels cool air. And depending on the unit's location, this may be either an added bonus for you, or it may end up overcooling the basement, for example. And if needed, that cool air can be ducted away. I should point out too, heat pump water heaters all have an electric element in them for backup. When they can't keep up with your hot water demand using just the heat pump, they fire up that element and run just like a standard electric tank, which certainly costs more. However, for most brands, you can turn that feature off. Now, when you put all of this together, I think really two questions come up. First, if my current water heater has failed, it's leaking, it doesn't work, what do I replace it with? And secondly, if my current water heater is still fine, do I wait? Or does it pay to replace it now because heat pumps are so much more efficient? Let me show you what the math looks like. Using these assumptions that we started with, and you look at an electric tank, which has an energy factor of about 94.5%. In Tennessee, For the average house at 64 gallons a day, it costs you about $508 a year to run that water heater. Now in New York, using that higher electric rate, it goes up to nearly $1,000. Propane tankless water heaters have fabulous energy factors at 0.97, and they cost about $538 a year to run, which you'll note is more than the electric tank in Tennessee, and the reason for that is propane's expensive. A propane standard tank uses a chimney, has a much lower energy factor, and consequently you pay more to run it, $841. And natural gas is pretty fabulous too, with the same energy factors, but because natural gas is so much less expensive, it costs a lot less to run it. $249 for the tankless version, $389 for the standard version. But here's your heat pump. And I'm using an energy factor of 3.75. It looks almost magical. It's 375% efficient? Well, sort of. Again, it's not creating heat, it's just moving it. And that's an energy factor that I pulled out of a Rinnai unit. In Tennessee, it only costs $128 a year to use that tank. In New York, it would only be $245. So, vast different. So in summary, if you have a natural gas water tank, I'd probably hold on that. If you have a propane water tank, I'd probably switch that one right away. If you have an electric water tank, I'd consider switching that one pretty soon. And really, you can think of it this way. Make your next water heater a heat pump water heater. If I can answer any questions on water heaters or really anything HVAC, just leave us a comment here or visit our website at atcservice.com. Thanks for watching.